Salutations everybody, it is Maddie here today, and we have some excellent news courtesy of CD Projekt Red right when we needed it most. Today we're not only going over The Witcher 4, but also a very positive, impactful move for both creators and consumers alike in relation to Cyberpunk 2077. Now the main focus of this video is not going to be The Witcher 4 because while the article that we're going to be reading from Eurogamer's Polish site is focusing on The Witcher 4, I don't find this to be much of news. It's been pretty obvious for a number of years, if you've been paying attention to CD Projekt Red in various interviews, that they're not abandoning the Witcher franchise and they are going to continue work on it, and that work will more than likely resume after their next big project being Cyberpunk 2077. Furthermore, since this article is from Poland and a lot can get lost in translation, I don't want to read a Google translated article, so we're going to be going over some Twitter bullet points from Daniel Ahmad, but furthermore, Adam Badowski also commented on the Witcher 4 discussion that was ensuing after this article went live and said, "The Witcher is always on our hearts and minds, but currently we are fully focused on Cyberpunk 2077. When the time comes, we will begin to talk about other projects." It's so obvious they're going to do another Witcher game, guys. I mean, look at the success of the Netflix series, right? Like, it bumped The Mandalorian off of the top streaming show. That is crazy in its own right. Like, Star Wars is a big deal, and The Witcher came in and said, "See you later." Furthermore, there was a renaissance of love for The Witcher 3 and a huge resurgence as if it was a brand new game. It surpassed its total player count entirely, and I think that alone is incredible. So The Witcher is thriving as it stands, but it doesn't demand a new game right now. People are probably looking for season 2 of the show, and then soon after, we'll start to hear about a video game. So just know The Witcher 4 is naturally coming. That's not that big of news. But what I want to talk about is in relation to CD Projekt Red. So let's look at those Twitter bullet points from Daniel Ahmad and get into it. CD Projekt Red provided some comments to journalists recently. Summary of all main points. Cyberpunk still on track for September release and has been submitted to age rating agencies. Does not expect the virus to impact game development, but is too early to comment on full impact. So we're going to pause right there because that's something that's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. We've seen a lot of companies start working remotely in the games industry, and you have to wonder, if you're not all in the same building, how can there be a direction? How quick is communication? How does everyone work individually? How far will projects get set back? A lot of this we're going to have to see in the terms of a long-term impact, how quickly a vaccine comes out, how quickly treatment comes out and can be fully tested to then be spread around the globe, and we can return to our normal lives. So a lot of that has to be a wait and see approach. We do have yet to see any games get delayed because of this, but that may be only a matter of time. Let's resume to some of the good news though. Reviewers will get the game weeks before the release date, with an embargo set for the weekend prior to release. Pre-orders for Cyberpunk higher than The Witcher 3 at same point in time, which doesn't surprise me. It is a first-person shooter after all. And after Cyberpunk, one team will work on add-ons, another on online version of the game. So this is how they're going to balance out remaining content for Cyberpunk. We know that they are doing a completely separate thing for the multiplayer of this game, which is exciting in its own right. Knowing CD Projekt Red, that very well may turn into its own game. I mean, all you have to do is take one look at Gwent, which was supposed to get a single player expansion, but then the single player expansion got so big that it led to what is now known as Thronebreaker: The Witcher Tales, and it's its own individual game that I highly recommend, by the way. Really good game from CD Projekt Red that no one talks about. Everyone's always celebrating The Witcher 3, but this game exists, and as I always do when I bring it up, please give it a shot. But yeah, I can't say I'm too surprised that pre-orders for Cyberpunk are higher than The Witcher 3. CD Projekt Red has built up a lot of goodwill over the years, and Cyberpunk overall looks more accessible than The Witcher, if I'm quite honest. But what I want to focus on more than anything in this video is reviewers will get the game weeks before the release date, with embargo set for the weekend prior to release. Now, I'm not complaining when I say this by any stretch of the imagination, because I am in a great position to do what I love for a living. I love reviewing games. If you guys couldn't tell, in the last week I reviewed 3 friggin' games. I love discussing games, so I have no problem if I gotta crunch a little bit. But I've started to see a little bit of discussion of crunch in our industry surface thanks to Naughty Dog and what's been happening over there. And on top of that, there's been a response I've seen peppered throughout, definitely not getting nearly as much attention, on how content creators have to crunch a little bit when it comes to embargo. The amount of times I've personally, as someone who's reviewed over 100 games, has sat down and had to beat a game within a weekend. beat a game within 2 days. I mean, I've had to beat very long games within a week. Like, I had a week to beat Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And you think to yourself, oh, a week, that's plenty of time. But when you account for some day-to-day activities and you have to like literally schedule your game time, and that Assassin's Creed Odyssey is this gigantic game, a week really isn't that much time. So when you look at the size of Cyberpunk 2077, instantly, if you're a content creator, you're a reviewer, you sweat a little bit at the idea of not being able to take it at a normal gamer's pace. And often that's not the concern of the company. They're like, here's your early game, do with it what you want. And it doesn't lead to scenarios for me personally, because I take my content very seriously, but you've definitely seen your share of rushed reviews, assumptions made within the review themselves, stuff that shouldn't be happening because there is that small window of time and people want to meet the embargo date to maximize their clicks their reviews could possibly get. And I don't know why it's so hard for folks to just say, hey, I haven't finished the game yet, but XYZ, and just go on with your explanation on how you feel about the entire game. That's all it takes, one sentence. But as I said, you look at Cyberpunk, you look at the size of it, you look how much content there is there, and you think to yourself, oh man, if they give us like a week to beat this, we're in real trouble. But seeing that CD Projekt Red will prioritize the content creators in allowing us to comfortably play the game for weeks, not saying I'm going to get it personally, but just in general speaking. And this turns to you guys in the positive, because not only are you getting comfortably made reviews that don't have people rushing to get them done. I've learned to work under those conditions. I don't mind. It doesn't impact how I enjoy the game. But now you're getting these comfortably made reviews, and you have a week to digest all of the content. And that's amazing for you guys as consumers. You get to be fully informed so far ahead of time. You know, you look at this period of time right now, right here in March 2020, we have a lot of games coming out. And how close to the release date are these reviews dropping? Think about it. A couple of days, right? Animal Crossing, as we record this video, drops its review. You got 4 days. Is that enough for most people? I'd say so. But a lot of times, like with Ori, it's at 6 a.m. the day before. Like, there are some weird times. If you guys have been following gaming and reviews for a long while, you'll remember there was a huge embargo issue when it came to Assassin's Creed Rogue. Essentially, they used the review embargo against the consumer and placed it far after the release date, so no one could really talk about Rogue because they didn't feel super confident in this project. And that blows my mind on a separate note, because between Unity, which I did like, but I played a very bug-free version of it, it seems, compared to what most people experienced, and Rogue was way better. Rogue was great. So it's kind of funny how things can work out with embargoes and how sometimes companies can underestimate their projects. But if you want something more recent, all you've got to take a look at is Bethesda's horrific review policy that they tried to implement back around the release of Doom 2016. I mean, my gosh, they even tried to justify it because Doom was that good, but people kept fighting back until Bethesda finally rolled the policy itself back and said that they were tired of people spending more time talking about the review policy in reviews rather than the game itself. I still to this day have no idea what they were thinking when they said, hey, this sounds like a good idea. Let's bar off communication about products and just essentially not inform the consumer. It was one of the most closed-minded decisions I've ever seen when it comes to my time in this industry. But I know this video can seem like self-absorbed, like, oh, Maddie's just talking about how this is great for him, great for his content, but I'm just trying to emphasize to you guys with bad examples in the past and how this is very good, that we're going to be able to make comfortable reviews and not have to rush, and more reviewers will actually dive into side content. For me, I try to do everything in a review. I don't try to just look through a tiny window, get to the credits, and then give you guys a brief glimpse onto how I feel about the game, because what kind of review is that, right? You want to experience the breadth of the content in the game. That's why you've seen me do more previews than reviews this week. Like Neo 2 is a huge game. I'm 30 hours in and I'm only in the 3rd act. There's still a total of 6 acts. There's no way in hell I could have gotten a review done in the 24-hour window and called it a review. But you see a lot of creators rushing those out. So all I'm saying is, specifically with Cyberpunk, you won't have to worry about reviews being rushed, and that will benefit you more when it comes to digesting actual information, because not only will you have time to do so, but the content in general will be better, or at least at the very minimum, people will have no excuse whatsoever. So this is great news, and now I leave it in your hands. What do you think about Cyberpunk's latest news? Are you surprised about The Witcher 4 more than likely being the next game from CD Projekt Red? How do you feel about the multiplayer expansion for Cyberpunk, how they're splitting up teams for the DLC and the multiplayer? Should the multiplayer be a big focus for a single player game? A lot of discussion points here. How do you feel about embargoes, reviews, the rush content, review windows? Do you guys have questions about reviews? Just all that. Just go crazy, ask questions. You know, we got plenty of time now, so we can really sit down and discuss in the comments. If you guys haven't noticed, I've been really active in the comments as of lately, so fire away, get interactive, and I'll see you guys there. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. Big thank you to all the patrons who continue to support me through what's been a tough time for all of us. Do think of prioritizing yourself, though. If you guys need extra cash for whatever it may be, by all means, I insist. And I'll talk with you guys soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.